Today's video, we're going to talk about what to check daily, weekly, and monthly on Google Ads to prevent the loss or having your account go down the tubes and lose profit short-term, medium-term, long-term because you're not keeping an eye on your account. I came up with all these rules because I have to manage dozens of ad accounts personally and get the results thereof. And of course, at our agency, we do not charge unless we can get our clients' results. We've got to keep a laser targeted eye or focus on the accounts to be able to, of course, do that. With Google's changing everything all the time, and they've got AI do ad disapprovals and, decide if ads are going to run or not run. Certain remarketing audiences can be blocked and on and on and on and on. You have a lot to monitor with Google Ads accounts nowadays. It's to the point where the average Joe who doesn't have time to monitor his account and relies a good chunk of his revenue on it, you don't have a choice but to have an ad agency or somebody you pay full time to pay attention to this thing, because you can have your ads making whatever it makes today, one little thing changes in your account, and then boom, 75% of your profit's gone in a week already because that one change occurred. And instead of playing this game of, something goes wrong and then reacting and you lose a bunch of revenue while it happens, and then some time passes and something else happens and then you react and you've lost a bunch of revenue from the time that it happened and the time you respond. You could instead take these things I'm going to share with you here that we use at our firm, and because people are outsourcing checking their account to us, apply it to your own business, and you're not going to have to constantly be reacting to things. You'll be on top of where, of course, things will always happen, but the downtime you have from the time that something does occur to the time it's fixed is in the days range / hours range, and you just won't lose very much money when updates occur to your account. And so I will go through things that you have to check on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, given that nobody has time to constantly check all the time, because the best would be to check every minute. Of course, that's crazy. What is reasonable? Well, there's certain things that are bad enough on your account that you should really be checking those daily, or even if it's just assigning, a secretary to check it daily. That's easy to check on a daily basis. Stuff that you should kind of basically check weekly and then monthly. But no doubt, this isn't a thing where you can say, I don't care. Nothing's happened before. If you are going to take Google Ads serious, the whole point of it is to get a small budget working so you can spend more and more and more. And there'll be a day where it spends a lot. Your business is relying on the revenue that it produces. Something eventually is going to happen to that account. And if you don't want to go out of business and have wasted all your time building your business up, you got to have checks in place to monitor for the stuff that's going to take that account down. And that's why I made this particular video, to share the process we came up with, given it was not easy for us to come up with as well. Because with all the stuff that can change, it took us a long time to have our process to check 50 different ad accounts that we're responsible for. You just have to monitor one potentially, and you're going to be able to monitor it very well because you've got the big boy strategy. Before I get into that content though, if you do not know who I am Corey Zyman, owner of Guaranteed PPC, an online advertising agency that specializes in guaranteeing results for their clients. That is, we do not charge our clients management fees until we can get them a certain minimum lift in the profitability, basically in excess of the management fees that we charge. We are the only agency out there who offers any kind of similar guarantee, which should tell you something about the quality of the information that I'm sharing with you on today's video. So with that said, getting into the content. Now, the stuff that basically will screw you up the most, I've got on the daily side. I mean, if it weren't that important, I could put it on the monthly side, just to let you know kind of how I structured this and why things are separated out the way that it is. I'm just going to start with the daily checks here. So for that, the stuff that you really should be checking daily, and Google does send you, if you monitor your email, an alert when these things basically are going to happen. Most of the time, but not always. You still got to check manually. But for the most part, the one thing you got to look for is ad disapprovals. Now, with the strategies we use at our firm, we use hundreds of ads because we use single keyword ad groups. We come up with different campaigns for different audiences that we're targeting, even like with YouTube campaigns. We also have multiple videos in a YouTube campaign. And so one ad is never going to really take us down. We want to monitor the ads and get stuff back up, which is the benefit of having more than one ad in your account. But with more ads, there's more to manage. If you want less to manage and have one ad that drives all your revenue, that one ad goes down, your revenue stops, okay? And a lot of times, it'll take time to get back up, which at the very least, if that was you, what you should be doing is having a backup ad that's paused, that's approved, that you could switch on when that ad does go down, because a lot of times it's a false positive. Google has cut costs, and they don't use humans to review ads anymore. They use AI, and then you have to appeal it, and that appeal can take a couple days. And that's all just time that you're losing money. Ultimately, your overhead stays the same while this is going on. You should make sure your ads are not getting disapproved on a daily basis. Checking, and you usually get an email alert for this, not always, but it's easy to go into your ads menu of your account and then make a filter for disapproved, and it'll show you all disapproved ads. So literally, and you could save that filter, and in a minute, literally a minute a day, you can see if there's any ads disapproved. It's pretty, no matter if you have 5,000 ads, you can find out like that with that. Also, I would check about product disapprovals. And I didn't take this too seriously before, but recently, Google's gotten to the point now where what their review system does is it clicks through ads and also products, if you're using a product feed with a shopping campaign or a PMAX campaign, and it checks the website to see if the website loads. And if it doesn't load because there's a DNS issue, or the platform you're on, the hosting that they're using glitched out, or your hosting glitched out, the website won't load. Google's going to disapprove that ad, but also it will disapprove a product on your product feed. And we've had it where, the top products on our product feed, we'll have 10 products for sale. The top one that gets 70% of the sales goes down because Google's review system clicked through that ad, product link, went to the website, saw the website didn't load, and it was a Shopify site of all else. You would think this would never happen with Shopify. It did. Product goes down, didn't realize that product went down because this hasn't happened once in 8 years with this particular client. And our sales are half of what they were before that happened. And then, we had to, of course, appeal it and got it back up and within 48 hours. But still, this stuff happens. It's to the point, once this happened, we put it into our own systems to check the products to make sure the products aren't disapproved, because you're not going to necessarily get an email from Google when that gets disapproved. We know because we never got one. So you check to see your products and your shopping campaigns and PMAX campaigns are approved along with the ads. And then I would also, of course, check any billing issues, because once in a while, cards get declined. Banks have a hard-on for disapproving Google Ads charges. Why? Because all the time, Google Ads accounts get hacked. You got professional hackers. You go to a girly website and then all of a sudden your computer gets spyware on it. And then that company that installed that spyware was searching your computer for logins. It finds a Google Ads login. They say, yes, great. That login, Google Ads login, is as good as cash on the black market. They sell that login to somebody who runs affiliate offers. They hack into your account, put a bunch of ads up, jack up the budget. You aren't aware of it because you're not checking your account, not only just for ads going down, but for anything. Your card gets dinged and ding, 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 and then it gets shut down. And then your ads get shut down. They also try to, by the way, make themselves an admin if they can, and then lock you out of your own account, which is why you want to change your passwords with Google Ads accounts regularly. You're a target, or at least have two-factor authentication, which Google, of course, basically has made default now, I should say. Anyway, I'm getting a bit off course here. What I really wanted to say here is, because of everything I just described, banks have really, gotten to the point where even if they see any charge from Google Ads, they're wanting to disapprove it, even if it looks slightly suspicious, because of all the people who've gotten hacked, reported to the bank that this was fraud, and then and as part of their bank fraud algorithm, they've seen Google Ads as a problem often. There's lower thresholds to trigger something that will get your card disapproved for a certain charge, from anything coming from Google Ads. So you basically, somehow triggered their very low fraud system, algorithm, filter. Your ads are not funded anymore because your card is, got shut down by your bank. Your ads were not running, and you don't want this happening at all. And it can happen to where you're, go from making $50,000 a month to making zero because your card doesn't work anymore. And so you should check your billing. I see this actually quite often where clients their credit card just suddenly stops working because the issues with, just like what I mentioned. So there's your daily checks. Those are pretty easy. These are so easy. You could have an employee give them a Loom video, show them how to check these things, and in 5 minutes a day, they could do that check, and you'll make sure your account never goes down for these major issues that will literally take you from where you're at now, potentially down to zero right away. Weekly, though, now going into the more complicated stuff. The first thing I would mention on a weekly basis is to check your tracking. And in order to check your conversion tracking, a lot of people think in order to check their conversion tracking, which all their campaigns are utilizing to run. And if your conversion tracking breaks, your ads will stop working. Not at first, but they'll slowly go off into left field. The only way to know if conversion tracking is truly working is to have backup goals. And so what people think is they go to check their conversion tracking and their tracking goal doesn't say 0 conversions. It's working, which isn't at all the case. Okay. Goals can be intermittently working. Maybe 50%, 75% of the conversion data is coming through. The other 10, 20, 30% isn't, whatever. And the way that you validate if it's partially sending data is you set up a backup conversion goal through Google Analytics. You import those goals into your Google Ads account. You pay attention to the ratio of conversions from the one set up through Google Ads and the one set up through Google Analytics, because you could set up a goal through either platform. You, on a weekly basis, see the ratio of goals of conversions set up to the Google Ads tag versus the Google Analytics platform that you imported from Google Analytics. And if that ratio is skewed, mainly given that I always use Google Ads for the cart purchasing because tracking cart purchases because it tracks about 30% more revenue than the cart purchase tracking that you can set up through Google Analytics. But basically, your primary goal, the one that tracks more conversions between the two, if you see that tracking less than your backup goal, then you know there's an issue. That will tell you if you have intermittent tracking. All right. So weekly, you compare your primary to your backup goal that you have marked secondary. Google ignores it for the guiding of your campaigns. You track the primary to backup or secondary goal you have set up for form tracking, phone call tracking, which you should also have, cart tracking, any offline purchase tracking, any qualified lead tracking, anything else you're tracking, of course. And that's how you're going to be able to truly know if your ad tracking is working on an ongoing basis, either outright not tracking or only partially tracking. That's the only way I know, by the way, to do it. You can, of course, use Tag Manager to try to see if the code's firing correctly and do that. But for me, I want to see the actual data show that it's working correctly. That's where the rubber meets the road, and that's the best way I've found to do it. And if you know a better way, let me know in the comment section. By the way, if you have any questions about anything I'm covering here or any marketing related questions, let me know in the comment section. I'll get back to you, usually within 24 hours. Going further here, the other thing I would check weekly is to see if you have any 0 impression campaigns or campaigns that have almost 0 impressions or way less impressions than what they should. Because, for that matter, campaigns, and people, frustrate me all the time saying, Corey, why aren't I not getting more sales this week? The sales are down. Really, demand changes. If you're running search campaigns, the volume of people searching goes up and down, up and down, up. And you just got to realize your sales are never going to be consistent because of that. If you're running even YouTube campaigns and all that, people buy at different rates because the weather affects people's propensity to buy when they see an ad. Political stuff does. Current events do. The economy does. When people get paid does. There's all these other micro factors that influence whether somebody sees an ad the same way they always saw it, turns into a sale or not, if you will. And so there's going to be normal fluctuations in your sale. But beyond that, what you do check here, what I'm referring to here, is when you clearly have, like let's say you were spending $100 a day for years, and now you're spending for the last 4 days in a row, $5 a day, $10 a day, $3 a day. Then you look into the issue that you're having there. And so you'll look at all your campaigns on a campaign by campaign basis, see if your impressions are near 0, and therefore if you need to do something about it. That way you don't let your campaign go down to 0 impressions for a long period of time when you could have just fixed the issue that you had and start, continuously earning like you were on that particular campaign. And you may be wondering, well, what do I do if that happens? Well, here's the 4 main ways that you're going to fix the issue when that happens. First of all, you fix it by changing the bidding strategy. So what a lot of people will do, and they take my advice and they should, that smart bidding will always beat manual bidding in today's environment. I'll admit that. I didn't admit it for a long time, but it's been that way for about 4 or 5 years now. And with that said, you use smart bidding, but if you set your smart bidding up wrong, it'll tank your conversions. And if you've done that recently, you may have to go back to manual bidding itself. And you may also have to change your target or CPA ROAS as target. So if you switch to smart bidding and that tanks your conversions, you maybe have to go to manual bidding longer. Or if you, let's say, had your target CPA at $60, right? And your campaign all of a sudden didn't convert very well for the last week. Google maybe, instead of giving you the $100 a day you're spending now, it might spend $10 a day because it's not converting. So at that point in time, you may have to raise the target CPA to dig out that campaign from where it's at. so that the impressions come back and your campaign can get back to spending what it was spending. And then after about a week of that, set your target CPA back to what it originally was before anything was changed to continue to get the performance from that campaign you always had. So in other words, if your campaign goes down to zero, if you either raise your target CPA or lower your target ROAS, that'll get you your impressions on that campaign going again, because otherwise it's just going to be down at 0 impressions forever. It's never going to dig its way out. And then you might also fix that issue by getting your disapproved ad fixed. So you look at your ads, are they disapproved or not? Similar to that, you could also check your ad groups. Are your ad groups paused? Are there keywords paused that weren't supposed to be paused itself as well? You could look into the potentially could look into that. Second to that, I'd also say keywords, if they're showing a low quality score under the status, maybe that's causing it. But those are smaller things. And then finally, you might have a remarketing audience that needs to be fixed. Your remarketing audience either got disapproved or you just don't have enough people on it anymore. And that's another thing that can come up that can cause a campaign to suddenly not get very much traction all of a sudden. Generally speaking, when the audience gets disapproved, not when it loses people, because even if it collects no new people, it would take a while before your campaign goes down to 0 impressions. But maybe your campaign was, 30 impressions, then 20 the next week, then 10 next week, and eventually it's near 0. But this weekly check that you're looking for campaigns near 0 impressions at least spotted it versus never spotting it and it went on to be at 0 impressions for years to come in the future because you just never really had this check going on and the system going on that I'm giving you here in your account, in your business. By the way, if you have any questions, of course, you can leave me a comment in the comment section like I mentioned before, but you can also reach out to me at my firm at guaranteedppc.com and I can do a coaching session with you where I explain what to do. You can tell me why you're not getting what you want in terms of results, and I'll look at everything you have from your sales process to your pricing, to your packaging, your website, to your ads, and find out what the bottleneck is with what you got and then let you know how to fix that. I'm very, very astute at doing this because I do this all day long with different business owners and I've been doing it over a decade. So with that said, that is always available to you. You just got to reach out to me at my site at guaranteedppc.com and I'd be happy to have a conversation with you about setting a call up to do that. We also do full management of ads, of course. We can literally guarantee your results if we take you on as a client where we'll say we'll get you to this amount of sales or this many leads before taking a management fee. And with that, then, and that we're not full of BS if we're going to agree to take a fee for our time and provide value to you. Otherwise, we're not taking anything on our end. No other agency does that. If you're interested in that, you can also reach out to me at my firm at guaranteedppc.com. As is, if we've worked in your niche market before, you can also buy templates from us. We sell campaign templates, ad templates, landing page templates that work for different niche markets. If we've worked, let's say we've worked in the plumbing space, you're a plumber, we'll sell you everything that works in the plumbing space in, different cities that we work in that's not your city, assuming it's not in your city. And you use it there and you're going to get the same results we got. You could do this with e-commerce templates we have, by the way. If you're in a country that we're not in, you can use it there and have turnkey results. We got people that start other businesses up from these templates up. Just start a business from scratch around the template and have a working business, given that running the ads is usually the hardest part to get a business to work, unless you're doing something, crazy like manufacturing or something like that. So anyway, if you're interested in template or what templates we have, let me know. We got 100 different niche markets where we have templates and we'll tell you the results we got with the templates up front if you just reach out to us. Going back to the weekly checks now, the other thing I would check on a weekly basis that we found was useful in the decade plus of running our advertising firm here and running heavy Google Ads campaigns and accounts is product feed warnings. So on a weekly basis, I'm going to go into Google Merchant Center. I'm going to check to see if my products have new warnings because you could have something that says, warning, a common warning that comes up with products is no GCLID itself. And we know that if you ignore that, your impressions are not going to be the same as it was before. So you'll ignore it at your own peril. And really you should get it fixed. And the quicker you get it fixed, the quicker you're going to get your campaigns back on track with the amount of impressions it had before. So, you'll typically not get an alert to your email inbox for that. So that's something you want to check and then stay on top of. And where people get overwhelmed is they just don't do anything about it for years. And then you got hundreds of items with different errors and it just takes forever to deal with. Whereas if an error comes up, you deal with it right away. It's easy to deal with. On a weekly basis, we're also going to look at ad asset / ad extension disapprovals. So Google used to call these just ad extensions. It was simple to refer to it. That is the stuff that shows up underneath the Google search ads. Google calls them ad assets now. But a lot of times, like the business logo will get disapproved, or the business name will get disapproved. And that heavily affects the ad performance. If you just by getting a business name disapproved, and so therefore all you have is a website URL showing, that in itself can decrease your click-through rate 20%-ish, and that'll drop a lot of times half of the profitability, given that's going to raise now, not instantly, but eventually raise your cost per click and get you less clicks. It's also going to lower your impressions because you're not going to have as high of ad rank now, all because your stupid business name got disapproved. And then it got disapproved because you didn't do your ad verification right, or what have you. So I want to check that on a weekly basis because it has a high impact on my results, and I'll typically not get an email alert for that as well. So that's something I'm also checking weekly for our clients, and you should be checking weekly for yourself as well. If you like the tips, by the way, that I'm giving you here, and you're saying, oh, that was smart, Corey, you should ultimately consider subscribing to this channel as well, because there's no better information you're going to find from somebody who's actually in the weeds running ads for their business, and dozens of other businesses that to actually give you working real knowledge about what works with Google ads as well as other ads on other platforms, because that's all I specialize in. Because you got a lot of guys on YouTube, trying to make money off of advertising revenue. They're not really running any ads. They're making money off their YouTube channel, and that's all they do is their YouTube channel. Or they run a couple ads, but they really don't have broad-based knowledge on anything. Or they run an agency, but they're not getting any of their hands dirty. Therefore, it's all just second, third-hand information, and that stuff isn't good considering they're getting information from somebody else, and you're just not going to get any information you need. Whereas myself, I manage about 100 different campaigns at any given time, and I know what works. I've been doing it over a decade, so why not get the information straight from the source? So if you're serious about making money with ads, you want to subscribe to this channel, there's no excuse not to. Furthermore, I've got a fantastic blog on my site at guaranteeppc.com/blog that you can use to your own advantage. I document the strategies we're using to guarantee results for our clients, and I outlay them there in a visual form with screenshots, with the step-by-step instructions you need to use them. So if you like the channel, you should definitely check the blog out as well, because it's just as good, if not even better, than what I provide on this channel here as well. Going forward here, on a monthly basis now, here's what I would typically recommend you check on a monthly basis, what we're checking on our clients' accounts on a monthly basis for making sure Google Ads stays on the rails, is check the backup goals on Google Analytics 4. So as I mentioned here with the tracking, how, everything with Google Ads is predicated on your tracking and how much data you've accumulated in your account. And to give you a quick example of this, we've had an account that sold printer toner for 10 years, was doing very, very well, very profitable. We took everything in that account in terms of keywords, ads, everything, campaigns, copy pasted it into another account to promote a second website. Profit we were earning from that new account is 5% of what we were earning from the aged account that has been running over a decade already. Not to say it wouldn't be profitable, but with no data, that's how much of a difference it makes on your results, starting out from scratch. No data whatsoever. So that really puts into perspective how much your results are predicated on data and how important it is to have the right data flowing into your account, or the best data possible. You will never lose any money investing in better conversion tracking data. You'll always make your money back on that. So therefore, you should always do as much as you can for that. And part of that is maintaining the data stream you have coming in. You check and compare weekly your primary goals that you have to your secondary or backup goals. And then you take your backup goals and make sure those are working at least once a month by going through. And since my backup goals are usually set up through Google Analytics, I can go through and use a tag manager and verify a goal triggers in Google Analytics. But better, and here's the real recommended option, go actually set up a test campaign with some test keywords, click through your own ad, fill out a form, call your own phone number, your tracking number, make a test purchase, and make sure the backup goals also show conversions. And so at least you'll know your backup goals itself are working, but that'll also make sure your primary goal is working as well. And ideally, you should show a conversion show up for your primary and your backup at that particular time. And that's how you, in addition to checking the ratio of conversions from the primary to backup goal to see if your primary goal is intermittently working, this will also make sure the backup and the primary goal actually work. When you use them in conjunction, it almost guarantees your ads are always going to be tracked correctly. If things can break, of course, but it'll make sure it doesn't go on any longer than necessary, we'll just say. Ideally, if you wanted to take this a bit further, you could do a test conversion once a week. If I was running an account that was making $1 million a month in profit, I'd be doing a test conversion every week, not every month. So there's that. And then I'm also going to do monthly remarketing checks. Check my remarketing audiences and make sure that for a growing business, your remarketing list should be growing, but at the very least, you should see it's, one, not flatlined. It's not down to zero. But secondly, it's not 50% lower than the high of your highest high, assuming you're growing your business, because it should be technically growing. It can fluctuate. It can go down. You just don't want it to go down from, let's say, 100,000 visitors to 30,000, which is more than a 50% drop. Because if that happens, you probably got an issue. You've got some sort of issue on your website blocking people from getting on your remarketing list, or you have some other issue that you got to be able to figure out what to do to fix that. And that's important because remarketing is important. And a lot of people don't realize remarketing is important. So there's something called the power of sevens in marketing that, that says you'll make more money advertising to fewer people more times than more people, but only once. And this is true in any market where you're talking about people making a decision over time, or to say, like, for an emergency service, you need now or never, like an emergency wisdom tooth extraction or emergency toilet fixing. You either need it now or never. So following up somebody who's been advertised to with other advertising doesn't make any sense. But anything else besides that, you will make more money advertising and spending some of your ad money on the follow-up ads. Why? Because it's so cheap in comparison, generally speaking, to get somebody who's already seen and heard of you before, that you know for sure is in market for what you have, to get them back a second time than it is to get a new person to the site the first time. Especially with search ads, when you're running search ads, because the search ad will often cost $1, $2, $10 per click, and it costs, if you do remarketing banner ads right, 20, 30, 40 cents to get them back to your site again. Same person, same quality person. So with that said, you really want to focus on your remarketing. We spend 10, 20% of our ad budget on remarketing to get the full value out of our ad budget at any given time. We'll have different ads with testimonials, our average review rating on them, our differentiators on there, and so forth. And we run a cycle of them for every person who's been to the site. And that supports any front-end traffic coming to the site to make it convert, so we can do even more front-end traffic. And people don't look at things that way. And that's really how you make sense of remarketing, given a lot of people, by the way, think that somebody should see a remarketing ad, click through and buy right away. And most of the value of a remarketing ad is people seeing the ad, internalizing it. And then when they go to buy 5 days from now and they say, shoot, I can't delay my purchase anymore, you're the first person they think of, and they're going to go to Google, type in your name there and buy. And it was because you followed up with them with the banner ads while they were trying to decide who to go with. And that's where most of the value lies with remarketing. So knowing that, you want to make sure your remarketing is always working, and you check your remarketing audience list at least once a month, because those do break as well. Anyway, with that said, that goes over the daily, weekly, monthly checks that we use at our advertising firm to catch most of the issues. Now, there's other small stuff that comes up time to time, but if you just do the simple stuff that I mentioned here on this video itself, and you're talking about mature campaigns that have been running for at least 90 days, because the first 90 days you run a campaign, you're going in there and you're making lots of revisions to cut out keywords, ads that are horrible, whatever. You're going to basically be covered already, okay? It's still anymore going to be 100% be worth it to hire the best ad agency or consultant that you can, because stuff's changing and you actually have to do better than your competition to be able to make good money with Google ads, given that Google ads, or Google tries to send as much of the business to the top advertisers as possible now, the people that have the best click-through rates, the best conversion rates. You don't really have an option to just, do whatever. You have to do it better than them or you make no money, given that Google wants people to click on ads in the future, and they're not going to click on ads if they host up crappy ads to them that give people bad experiences. So they really ideally just want to figure out, of the 5, 10, 15, 20 people that are trying to advertise in your space that are cycling in and out of the ad spots or on the website that you want to be on, which ones are providing the best experience, and then just try to load them up with all the clicks possible. If they could ideally find the top 10% of advertisers and get everybody to click on them, they would. And they give them the best traffic that's most likely to convert, which they kind of know who's going to convert and who's not based upon everything that person's done before they made the search. And they give it to the person they want to encourage to stick around, which is the top guy with the top click-through rates, top conversion rates. With all that said, you have to get on Google's good side, if you will. And so therefore, you need to have somebody who knows what they're doing, or at least as much or better than your competition. And they have to be not lazy, of course, but so managing stuff yourself particularly when you're already making $500,000, million plus dollars revenue in your business every year. It doesn't make any sense to manage it yourself because you're going up against people like me who just do nothing but Google all day. So how are you going to beat them? But if you were managing it yourself, you're going to go with this approach. Or if you're working with an agency, you can tell them this is what you want done and make sure they're doing this. And that can be a great value to you as well. For that matter, though, I'm pretty much going to wrap it up with that. For any of you guys who are looking for an investor in your business, we're investing in businesses. We're offering cash and also for ad spend as also as management services for free in exchange for cuts of revenue of the business. If the business qualifies and it's a good opportunity, we'll take between 1 and 10% of the gross revenue of the company in exchange for a small investment up front and manage with the ads long term. We've done this with several companies so far, and it's working out extremely well with those companies, of which we can give references. If you're interested in that, let me know. I mean, you could have the small pie you have in a bigger chunk, or you could have a much, much bigger pie and a smaller piece and make way more money. The smart thing is the second option, but of course, it's up to you to decide what you want and what you like. If you're interested in that, let me know. You can reach out to me at my firm at guaranteedppc.com and ask me about that exact thing. Let me know what you have as far as an opportunity. But I'll wrap it up with that. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
Remember when I said Google Ads was important during this video? Well, this video here tells you how to do it.